14.7 has a lot of really interesting stuff going on right now, but one of the most interesting things and one of the most interesting augments in the entirety of set 11 that people are still struggling quite a bit with is the augment Trash to Treasure. It is one of the hardest augments to pilot, and it has one of the worst averages because of the skill ceiling required in order to, you know, pilot this augment correctly. But today we're gonna be watching somebody none other than Dish Soap, rank 1, everyone's favorite rank 1 ladder warrior, or maybe yours is Setsuko, I don't fucking know. But Dish Soap piloting this really hard to pilot augment, and then just, like, you know, knowing how to play around it. There's the reason why I say that the skill ceiling is so high with this augment in particular is because there's a lot of minute things you need to get right. So a lot of turns you really need to think a lot and hard about what you're supposed to do in one turn, and because of all of the actions, it's actually like low-key like an APM augment, but because of all the things you have to do in a single turn, this augment gets really hard, and it's very easy to get dizzy. So watching somebody like Dish Soap pilot an augment such as this one is definitely a treat, because you get to watch all the decision making in real time and then just watch just how much there really is to talk about. And I think during the late game, especially this game, we'll be slowing down the video quite a bit. Quite a bit is real time, but slow it down into real time and really talk about like how to play around the augment and just what he's really thinking about during each turn, because there's a lot to do. Anyways, going to stage 1 here, looks like overall our start isn't bad by any means. Darius 2 is one of the best openers to start on, so we're already chilling with a pretty decent spot, but raw tier chain, nothing is that amazing. So nothing great for Darius, and ideally Darius is great because he plays into Yone very easily, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Trash to Treasure, Prismatic Ticket, Invoker Crown. Now, obviously, it's not Prismatic Ticket, it's not Invoker Crown. Both of these are just fucking terrible, and so, spoiler, it's going to be Trash to Treasure. But just to give you an idea, he was offered Tiny but Deadly and Living Forge, and despite having these two augments as potential choices, and Tiny but Deadly is perfectly fine in the early game. It's actually, like, it's an augment supposed to be better late game, and it is better late game. But, despite how good it is late game, it's still very solid early game. So, you could take Tiny but Deadly here and just play Flex, or just play what you hit, and you'd be totally fine. But Dish Soap, I think during the VOD, he actually says, I need more reps on this augment, which is kind of a Giga Chat thing to say, especially because he's sitting at like 1200 LP, and he took Trash to Treasure. So, if you don't know how this augment works, we'll just go back real quick just so we can read it. But reforging completed item turns them into a random artifact and does not consume the reforger. Basically, you need to make sure that you have a full item that you're reforging, and when you reforge, you'll be able to turn that item into an Orn component. Now, if a unit is holding an Orn component and a regular item, and then you reforge, then you will get 2 Orn items, and you won't consume the reforger. So that is the main thing. So if you want to reforge your Orn items, just make sure you have a full item to be reforging as well. So we get the reforger here. We'll probably be popping the anvils here, just getting kind of whatever. Does not really matter here. And then we get the Vow. We use it once, get a Death's Defiance. Not that great. Do it again, and we're stuck with double Death's Defiance. So it's not that ideal. It's actually pretty fucking low roll. There are a lot better things we could have hit here, but it's still perfectly fine. Death's Defiance is okay. We're just stuck with DDDD, which is what chat is spamming on the bottom left. So already we are level 4. We leveled for like a shitter when we could have played like something like Behemoth, but I mean, we were really low on time, so understandable with where Dish Soap is sitting at. But also, we have a Rek'Sai 2 in shop here, so things like the Dryads is better with the Kindred, and this is kind of the board that we'll be setting up for a while. We can't reforge these Death's Defiance until we can get another full item component, and then we can reforge again. You might have also noticed, by the way, a really smart thing he did is he put Rod and Death's Defiance on the Yorick, and he didn't put the Rod on the Darius. The reason being is that this first Death's Defiance can actually be used by Darius for now, so it's fine for tempo, but when we do reforge the second Death's Defiance, this Rod will be turned into a complete item, and then we'll reforge both Death's Defiance and the completed item, get 2 new Orn artifacts to try to flex around. We get the Malphite 2 here in shop, which is definitely better than the Rek'Sai. So we also get the Duelist and Heavenly in, so our board is looking very solid. 2 Heavenly, 2 Duelist, 2 Behemoth, and 2 Umbral. One of the strongest openers that you can get in the current meta. So really solid spot already, and it looks like, just generically speaking, when it comes to playing this augment, playing tempo is kind of the ideal. You just want to be playing high tempo, high HP preservation, and the HP preservation is obviously good because it keeps your options open, but also by having a lot of HP, it gives you a little more time to think about your turn. Sometimes you're not gonna be able to get the full turn done in one go. It's a lot to think about. Anyways, 2-4 encounter, going into the Teemo encounter, he puts a golden splash out onto every unit, which is not great for us. We don't really care about a spat too much. The only one that I could really think about is something like the Heavenly spat, and maybe we can play around Heavenly. That's totally fine, but it's not ideal to say the least. Anyways, going here, it looks like we can probably reforge the Jade. So we're gonna probably put JG onto the Yorick here, reforge, we get Moguls, and we get Anima. Stacking the Darius makes a lot of sense because he can utilize all of the stats, and hopefully we'll be able to probably be able to streak with this in mind. Also, somebody in chat just mentioned that the tag is not on Teamfight Tactics. I don't know why it's not. I can't set it to teamfight tactics for some reason. Hello? Any mods? Hello? Oh, well. It is what it is. Maybe we'll fix it later. But, sorry. Anyways, this is live on Twitch. But, looks like Darius is just barely able to proc with a 2 gold, and we're still streaking with 4. Yeah, I don't know. Twitch has been kind of weird recently. Oh, wait. Nope, never mind. I didn't find it. Oh, wait. Nope, never mind. I can't figure it out. Sorry. Back to the game. Looks like we got an encounter. I didn't look at it, but I don't think it mattered. We're looking at 27 gold. So we're probably going to be 30 gold, right, going into Krug. So we're actually super high tempo, super high HP, and super rich. So this is one of the best places to do this. My mod wrote, I don't know how to do my job. Yay. Thanks, Kamogs. It's fine. I don't even know if mods can do it. I'm sure they can, but I don't fucking know. But anyways, it looks like here, Disopen secured his 5 streak with the Darius 2. Didn't get to proc the moguls this time, but that's totally fine. And we are sitting at 30 gold. And our board is super fucking strong, so we should be chilling. By the way, the players in this lobby, Robin Song, Soju, Stellar, Minhee. We have a lot of really strong players in this lobby, so just keep that in mind. Very good lobby to be watching this. Looks like we are going to Krugs here, 40 gold, level 5, 40 gold, 5 streaking. And to be honest, the game plan is still really ambiguous. It's really hard to determine what exactly we're trying to play for. It just seems like we're trying to play for like a fast 9. There isn't much else that can really be said. It's a hard spot. Gargoyles, or not gargoyles, sorry, moguls and anima kind of, you know, they have the same function. Like your tank is going to be super tanky. And anima is one of the best tank items you can have for your tanks. Obviously, whatchamacallit, Eternal Winter is slightly better, but that's more because of the debuff, not necessarily because of the tanky item. Moguls is kind of okay, but there are definitely better things that we could be hitting here. So in general, our items are kind of whiz. Like this Death's Defiance, I don't really see us sticking around for too long. And the fact that we already lost to Robin on level 6 is already a bit of a bad sign. But we'll see how things keep going here as we go into the 3-2 augments here, and we're given best friends teaming up and exiles. Now, keep in mind, we are in we are playing Trash to Treasure, right? So Trash to Treasure, when it comes to your augment choices, specifically, the best types of augments you can find are augments that are going to give you items. So teaming up right now is definitely the best one here, because basically it just gives you a chance to maybe play for something like the red buff, or something like GS, and then you can reforge it. Just having a component and then just reforging it into something else, totally fine. Also, red buff in general is really great utility. You don't get to have red buff or wound with one artifact specifically, so getting the red buff in there is super nice. So teaming up is super solid. It seems that we actually have one more reroll as well for each of these, so maybe we could reroll for item grab bag, and that would be fine as well. But I think Digital might have forgotten here and just decides to take it. Totally okay. He is PP after all, so actually, you know what? He was probably right. Ends up getting the bow here out of the component anvil, which is super great. Get the red buff in here, and I don't think we'd reforge it immediately. At least I don't think I would. Just making sure that we have anti-heal secured for our board is probably the correct thing to be doing here. We are sitting on 60 gold, by the way, so we're actually still super turbo fucking rich on 3-2. Like, this is, our spot's still very strong. It's looking like from this position, we're probably looking for like a fast 9. I don't know if there's any comps in particular that prefer Ornn artifacts plus like reroll. So I really think like you really do want to play as high HP as possible, and you want to play the strongest board as you can. And if you can streak with this augment, you can maybe try to angle for it. So I think that's what Digital is doing here. 3 Heavenly, 3 Umbral. Board's slightly awkward, but it's totally fine. We actually level here at level 7 because it's pretty cheap to do so. We're gonna sit at 40 anyways. It only costs us 1 extra gold to be able to level 7 here and play up a whole unit, and we get to take an Arcanist for 20 extra bonus AP for our Darius. So again, spot is looking super duper strong. It does look like though we are playing into Soju's board, who and he might be like a 5 faded board, so he should be actually decently strong, but gets absolutely fucking cleared. Super, and you know, there's always chilling. Like, his spot's really good. His spot is good. Like, there's not much else to say. The problem with this augment, again, I will say this later down the line as well, and we will slow it down when it happens, but the biggest problem is fucking items and knowing what to reforge, where to put what. Like, this augment is a very high skill ceiling, mostly a knowledge gap. Like, you really need to know where everything needs to go and be able to pilot it well enough that you're not, like, you know, dizzy all the time. Funny enough, I think Digital actually pulled up the tech stat tools to see like what like spat items are good with this comp, and I don't think he found anything that was necessarily anything good. I think Mythic popped up because Mythic is something you can play in the late game with things like the Hui and the Lilia, or Hui and what's his name? Hui and the Nautilus, and they get 3 Mythic in, and I guess it's fine. But I mean, I don't know, using up a component that we could have used for like another Ornn item, like it's kind of weird. This spot, I think at the end of the day, is definitely ideally a fun nonetheless compared to anything else. But anyways, Going here, 3-6. So again, our spot's really like solid. Like the spot in general is solid, like no matter what you're playing, right? Trash to treasure or not. But the point is that Dish Soap, knowing like he could just level a little bit early, right, to preserve his HP, but also just like not like digging at all because it isn't necessary, is very, very fundamentally solid. So quite honestly, like we're sitting chilly. Like there's not much else to be said. Stage 4 is when everybody playing this augment starts to really lose their mind, because that's when things get tough. We are starting to mix streak a little bit as well, just to keep in mind. So our board is falling off, so we do need to start rolling at a certain point. But knowing how much to roll and when to stop rolling is a very, very, very important skill. Something that a lot of high elo players actually struggle with as well, especially at lower elo. Lower elo, you're typically almost always over rolling at level 8, and higher elo, sometimes you're actually under rolling because you don't know how to evaluate just how much strength you actually need onto your board here. But looks like it is for 1 here. We do natural Kai'Sa, which is super nice. So it looks like we're going to reforge as well. We're going to reforge Declaw. We got Hull Crusher. Don't like it. We are reforging. And it looks like we got Hull Crusher Goldmancer. It looks like we reforged Hull Crusher like 3 times. Like this is pretty fucking bad. Oh, thanks for Kicker for changing the category. Sorry. But yeah, Goldmancer, and then we got a Hull Crusher. And Hull Crusher, I think people are kind of sleeping on Hull Crusher Annie. I really do think it's fucking strong as hell. Especially if you're playing Flex, and I think Annie's one of the best 4-cost front lines. Just really awkward to tech into your board, except for maybe linking with Invoker with Azir, but nonetheless, I still think it's kind of slept on. I think it's super great. Anyways, Infernal Contract, Arcanist Crown, Radiant Relics. None of these are really that great. Radiant Relics in particular can be okay, but I mean, I don't know, man. Like, it's not ideal. There are definitely better things we can hit here for sure. So definitely rerolling middle and left side for sure. See what we hit. But boom, which is a great combat augment, blinding speed, and Jewel Lotus. Now, I think a lot of players in this position would pick Jewel Lotus. But again, trash to treasure. We want as many items as possible. And Dish Soap, being Dish Soap, immediately picks blinding speed, knows his conditions for what augments he needs to be clicking on, and he gets 2 more ways to itemize and reforge to see what's going on. Now, I'm going to play this turn at regular speed, so I'm going to rewind a little bit just so we can see it, because this turn, there's a lot that goes down. But basically, he picks up blinding speed, gets his items, and then he decides to level here. Makes a lot of sense so far, not a lot to think about. But he levels to 8 here, sells the Darius, which is great. Starts rolling a little bit, finds the Galio, finds another Kai'Sa. I actually think he skipped over the first Kai'Sa, which is actually a little bit surprising to see. But we do hit the Kai'Sa here. He definitely wants to pick it up as well. Gets rid of the Yorick's because he doesn't want it. He actually skips over the Kai'Sa, so yeah, he actually didn't want to play the Kai'Sa, which is very surprising to me. I think she's a very solid 4-cost, but I guess his items don't work too well. Gets the Wukong in here as well, and again, we haven't rolled too much. Look at our bench, by the way, cluttered as hell. We're going to put the Death's Defiance over onto the Wukong, I believe, but we're actually reforging against these first. See what we hit. Another Death's Defiance, so we reforge this with the red buff as well, and we get Goldmancer Anima. Fucking sucks. And again, we're still dizzy. We're still trying to complete our turn. We get the Moguls, we get the Anima onto the Galio, we get another Anima, and Death's Defiance onto the Malphite because we don't know who else is going to hold it. We get the Goldmancer onto the Soraka here, another Goldmancer to hold onto the Wukong here. We're probably not going to be holding onto Wukong too much, or maybe we're trying to reforge this Goldmancer anyway so Wukong can hold it, and then we can reforge it. Again, a lot of things to fucking think about. That one turn is a mouthful. Like, I'm still talking about this fucking turn, and the fight's almost over. Like, it's been like a whole minute. There's a lot to discuss, and again, this is like the biggest like skill ceiling, the skill gap, like is you really got to think about it. Anyways, 40 gold. Same with a bunch of random 4-costs on our board, and again, we're just trying to play around anything that we can really hit here that makes a lot of sense, that can utilize the items that we are given. Red buff Goldmancer, Lilia can use it. The other Goldmancer, Lilia can use it. Hull Crusher and everything else, like, it's still really, really awkward, but it looks like Dish Soap has rolled enough, and so it's like, you know what, maybe this is fine. I'm 70 HP. I'm just gonna go 9, and then try to figure out the board from here, which is a bit of a risky move considering that our board, if you just take a glance at it, not that great, but we do have a 2-star 3-cost that can kind of carry us. We do have a random Wukong on our board, 5 Heavenly. I mean, it can't be that bad. In terms of like the cheapest boards that you can take 9, Heavenly plus like some carries is typically like the answer. It's usually like Malphite, Nico, Kha'Zix, like Kiana, like all these units are not necessarily that great individually, but with the heavenly buff across your whole team, you can kind of sneak your way to 9 sometimes, but especially with high HP, it shouldn't be too bad. But look at this, by the way, we are fighting, once again, I believe we're fighting into Soju, because I know Soju was angling Aphelios, but we're actually like kind of doing pretty decently against this Aphelios board. We're definitely not winning, there's no ways, in Aphelios 3 with 3 whole items, but it's still like, you know, a 2-unit loss, it's really not that bad. Like, we're still in a really, really good spot. Going into the 4-5 here, we're going to fast forward just a little bit here, but there isn't too much that we want here. Again, we do want to reforge the gold master that's on the Wukong here and try to get something else. So any item is fine, just on a 5 cost would be ideal. If we can get the 5 cost Aurelia here, it's super great for us, and surprisingly enough we do. That way we can get the Aurelia onto our board who can hold our red buff, and she can maybe be somebody that we can throw onto our board as well. Again, I'm going to slow it down here at 1x speed, watch Dishop's turn. So he removes the items from Malphite because he wants to go, okay, what else do I want to reforge? He probably wants to also reforge this Hull Crusher because he really doesn't value it too much, and probably reforge the Anima as well because he has 2 of them. So he puts the Anima here, makes the Titan so he can reforge these items again, see what we get, and we get Sniper's Focus, and we get Moguls, which again, not ideal, but Snipers at least can go into Aurelia, which is great. Moguls can go onto the Galio, I believe. Manazane can go onto the Soraka, which is an interesting decision to make. I think Manazane on Wukong is actually pretty solid as well, so I think Manazane Wukong was definitely of consideration here. But again, there's a lot to think about. Moguls, again, is unique, so we do have to unfortunately pour it onto the Malphite here, and we get no value out of it, but it is what it is, and that's totally fine. Again, we aren't really winning fights just yet. Actually, it's... Wow. Okay, we actually won against a Kog'Maw reroll board. So that's kind of surprising, but you can see like why the strength of this Augment is so high. It's because you get to play a lot of artifacts and like chill. It looks like we get 4 rerolls here out of the Udyr encounter, which is great. Not going to use any of those because we have enough HP and enough money to try to go 9. Again, you might have noticed Dishop has overall not rolled too much on 8. He rolled just enough to get like a 2-star 3 cost and like some other shitters upgraded. But it's really interesting that I like that. Keep in mind, he's playing this Heavenly Core and like extraneous units, right? And in general, when it comes to level 9, the easiest boards that you can pilot are Heavenly Cores with extraneous units, or Dragon Lord units. Sorry, Dragon Lord Cord with extraneous units, or Sage Core with extraneous units. Those are like the easiest ways to play it. So he's opting to do Heavenly because that's what he happened to find. And so he's going to try to play around a Heavenly Core and then slowly build out of it once he gets to 9 and starts to roll for all those legendaries and tries to play around different units. Obviously, order items are huge spikes. They're very strong. But to get it to work properly and to navigate these positions is really tough. And again, with Chest of Treasure and the Reforger, it's just more and more things to think about, especially when you want to hold such a saturated bench to try to make sure that you aren't missing potential lines and opportunities that can hold these items. Anyways, going to level 9 here, we're gonna roll here a little bit. We hit the behemoths pair with the Udyr and the Orm, which is super nice. We got Hui in there as well, which is kind of okay. Not the ideal, but it's fine. We do remake the Soraka, which is great. We do get a cloak as well, so we can get the Heavenly Spat, so we can utilize our Spatial, which is super great. Manazane over onto the Wukong, which is great. These Wukong items are actually pretty fucking terrific now. Still stuck on a Moguls and a Gold Master on this Malphite, but it seems to be perfectly fine. Sorry for saying I'm a lot. There's a lot to really consider here. Even just watching this is dizzy, so I can't imagine being in the driver's seat. But we do need to roll a little bit more here. As you can see, we're also on our bench. We do have Altruist with the Riven. We do have Lee Sin for potential Dragon Lords. The Diana as well for that. Aurelia pair, because we want, if we hit the Lee Sin and the Aurelia 2, then we want to play Lee Sin with the Dragon Lord's core. Attack out of the Heavenly even further. We are holding Behemoths as well because of Udyr and Ornn being one of the best endgame frontlines that you can hit for the late game. Ornn being the best tank that you can hit outside of Annie. And Galio pair because we do have a Galio on our board. And if we hit Galio 2, we should probably play Galio 2. That was a mouthful. These turns are fucking hefty. There's a lot to think about. Going here, Aurelia 2, now we can start to think about taking out of the Heavenlies because we don't really need to play around the Nico or the Kiana anymore. We do hit the Hui 2 as well. We hit the Azir pair. We're sitting on an Altruist with the Rakan. Definitely get rid of the Heavenlies as well. We'll probably get the, get rid of the Behemoth as well. Get the Rakan in, get the Udyr in, get the Malphite in, get the Sage in with the Diana. We could probably drop the Galio at this point as well. I don't know if he wants to just yet though, just because we're not paired. We're paired Galio, and Galio 2 is still Galio 2, but that is of consideration here. We should roll just a little bit more. We're still sitting on a lot of pairs, but again, a lot to think about, and the turn is already over. Sitting on an open rod here as well is super nice because we can try to reforge one of our items in the future. Right now, the Rakan's sitting on a Moguls and a Gold Mancer. So again, we do want to reforge those eventually because this Moguls mail is just, it's not a great tank item. It's actually pretty poor. So we do want to get rid of it as well, and having 2 just makes absolutely no fucking sense. So hopefully on the carousel coming up, we'll be able to reforge them, and then we'll see where we can go from there. Obviously, we are trying to duplicate some unit on our bench as well, as we are trying to paint a 5 cost. Any would be fine, but Wukong would be ideal because he is holding 3 actually pretty strong items. Death's Defiance, Manazane is super solid. And Hull Crusher is perfectly fine as well. It looks like we get the Galio 2 here, and I think we're sitting on 2 pairs right now, maybe 3. We're sitting on 3 pairs. We're sitting on the Diana, the Lee Sin, and the Azir. So you could make an argument to keep rolling here, but quite honestly, it looks like his board is actually kind of stable, especially with the Aurelia 2 and the Galio 2. So we can probably chill for 1 turn, and then we can start rolling again on 5-5, which is actually a good standard interval to be rolling on. So fast forwarding a little bit here on 2x speed here, because this turn isn't as saturated and as dense as every other turn. But again, I keep reiterating it, but this augment is a fucking headache. It is really difficult to pilot this augment. It's one of the best augments to win out with, but you have to know how to pilot it. It's really, really tough. You have to be really flexible and know the right spots to even angle it in the first place, which in Dish Soap's spot was a very strong early game tempo unit like Darius 2. Sorry, a lot of words to think about. But any item doesn't really matter. Ideally on a 5 cost, so he gets the Hui here, which is actually super. It's fine. Actually, he has a Hui 2 already. But he's gonna reforge this Merlot on the Rakan, and then we'll see how his turn plays out. So watching at regular speed here again. Goes onto the Rakan, reforge, see what we hit. We hit Diamond Hands, which is kind of okay. Manazane is fine, and then we're stuck with another Death Defiance. So Dish Soap is like low-key like breaking world records with how many Death Defiance he's hit. He has so many Death Defiance this game. With the Azir 2, we hit the Diana 2. So we definitely want to get this Azir 2 on our board somewhere. We could probably drop either Sage, or we could drop Duelist from the Lee Sin, or maybe we could even drop the Riven and the Galio 2 once we hit the Ornn 2. But we can't drop Galio 2 until Ornn 2. That is for certain. We'll just be much, much weaker. So we do have Azir 2 unfortunately sitting on bench. There's not much else that we can do about it. There isn't really much of a way for us to tech onto it without our board actually getting weaker overall. So I do like this play of just holding the Azir 2 on, because he knows that that's eventually going on his board soon enough. Also, I think if he hits Wukong 2, he could probably make the justification to drop the Galio 2, and he'll probably be stronger at that point. But keep in mind, 2 Bruiser buffs buffs your whole team, Altruist buffs your whole team. So holding on to this Riven as well, I think is perfectly fine. Like, you can do this for 2 turns and he should be okay. It looks like Soju finally goes down into 5th place. I feel like I keep mentioning Soju. I feel like anytime like something interesting happens, Soju's somehow involved. But it looks like he's also rolling more here because he wants to try to see if he can hit anything else, which I don't know. I think it's fine. I think he's kind of accepted the fact that he's probably not going 10 this game, which is understandable. He's still missing a lot of upgrades, but I wouldn't be surprised if during the neutral's turn, obviously I've watched this game before, but I don't remember exactly what happens. But I wouldn't be surprised if he sells the Galio 2 here and open sells it to try to get more econ here and generate enough so that he can, play the Ornn and the Azir. So now we're going to try and roll and try to find a way to tech onto this Udyr onto our board as well. Keep in mind, we do have to reforge the items again because we're getting new ones out of the anvil here. So it's a lot. This game is a lot. So any item does not matter. Little bug, all good. We are probably going to Reforge first, see what we hit. So Reforge Moguls, Reforge Anima, and we hit the Zanyas and a Triforce and another Goldmancer, which is not that great. We're gonna roll now because we have hit just enough. We know what our items are, we just have to slam it at the end. So rolling here makes sense, or logical sense, to be the next move. Rolls a Lysandra 2 out of nowhere, so we definitely want to play that. That's one of the highest ways to cap out with our board, and actually switches out the way here, which I really, really like. I think that's super smart. Heavily spat onto the Ornn here because we don't have that many tank items. Really prudent, by the way, that you saw that immediately. Goldmancer and the Manazane onto the, and Zanyas, my fault, onto the Lysandra here. Triforce probably onto the Rakan, that's totally fine. Once we're Rakan 2, that'll definitely be a demon. You can maybe make the argument for Manazane, Zanyas, and Triforce onto this Azir, because I think he can actually utilize all those stats just fine. But the idea is, again, we just want to be throwing as many items down and get our turn done. That's the big thing. We actually roll a JG here out of just Lysandra farming components. So this is actually really smart. And actually, my fault. He's right. He should definitely itemize the Lysandra here, because if Lysandra can cast often and kill things, we can farm components and then we can use our fucking Reforger even further. So getting the JG here, we get a Reforge and we get some with the Eternal's Winter. That's just super solid. Gotta throw that onto the Ornn here for sure, and we should be good to go. He's rolling here again, as he should, finding the Soraka 2, which is great. Doesn't want to break 10, again, oh, never mind, breaking 10. I guess he's just thinking that the game's going to end too soon, so there's no real reason to say above 10. So, I guess that's fine. Eternal Winter onto the Ornn here, trying to hit the Ornn 2. Oh, I like that a lot. So, he actually waited to slam the Eternal Winter because he knew he was playing into a Yone board. So, he waited, and it's kind of similar to Zephyr or Shroud cheesing. He puts the Eternal Winter on the same side as the Yone to try and win the fight. So, I like that a lot. I think it's actually super prudent because it's an Ornn 1. It's not like it's going to be that much better with the Eternal Winter. So, again, PP, bro. Absolute demon, the way that he's playing this game. But looks like that he wins against Yone as well, the strongest comp right now in the current meta. And it looks like our spot is looking super, super good. It looks like I could probably just 2 exit as well. We rerolled again. It's probably Trickster's Rakan. And honestly, it's solid. Like, this has been a very strong performance from Digisoap. And again, these turns, especially stage 4 and stage 5, trying to figure out what you need to do every single one of those turns, it is fucking tough. It is so tough. But again, Digisoap's like, he's regarded as one of the best players in North America for a reason. Like, bro's piloting this like a fucking beast. Aurelia 2, List 2, farming more items with Lysandra. Very cool way to cap out the board. It looks a little bit janky because I think we're, what, are we 0 Arcanist? I think we're no Arcanist, no Porcelain. This Lysandra's in here just to be a Lysandra. But hey, still super solid. Doesn't, again, pink item doesn't really matter, but it does give us an Udyr too, so that is super great. Reforge again, try to get something decent. I don't think there's any Ore items that we could Reforge, maybe the Eternal Winter, but Eternal Winter is actually kind of good. So it looks like that we Reforge, and we get a Cypress Focus for Azir, and another Death's Defiance, which he throws onto the Azir, which is, I guess, fine. Maybe some people will be like, oh, but isn't it better on Udyr? Which it is, but putting the Death's Defiance onto the Udyr and then the Cypress Focus onto the Azir doesn't make a lot of sense. We do want to stack the stats if we can. And Digisoap wins out here. And I believe, is this a first? It is a first. So Digisoap actually ends the game in first place like a fucking demon. But again, this Augment, super cool to play. But a super, super, super highly skill expressive Augment for certain. So knowing how to pilot it correctly, knowing where the right spots to do it, and knowing what to think about during these turns is what makes this Augment so fucking good. But anyways, that's basically gonna do it for this one. Take care, guys, and happy climbing.